Hello, hello, welcome to Energising Flow today. So nice dynamic class plan for you. Again, I have lots of strength work looking into legs, core and arms. So all over strength practice today. And a couple of cushions is all you need. So if you've got them, then do grab them. It'll just be using at the end of class for some of the more winding down, moving into restorative type poses. So if you haven't got them, not the end of the world. We're going to come started today in child's pose. So finding your place, whether it's knees apart or together, you can use cushions to support you in between calves and thighs, and then bringing yourself down to the mat when you're ready, when it feels good. Then taking a moment when you get there, maybe a little shuffle from side to side. Shaking off any of the sort of heaviness or stuckness from the day. And then making the movements a little slower, finding a way into centre. With your inhales, seeing if you can really fill up your body, maybe for the first time today, really sort of noticing and observing what's going on with your breath. If it's been quite shallow for today, maybe seeing if you can draw it a bit deeper into your body. And as you exhale, seeing if you can find a bit of softness in the shoulders and the hips, in the jaw. Taking a moment to explore what's going on in your body today. And if it feels good, maybe setting an intention for this practice. Whatever it might be, something that you feel that you need today. And maybe throughout today's practice, seeing if you can be curious to explore. So sometimes if we've been practicing yoga for a long time, that curiosity can disappear. So maybe having curiosity at the center of your practice today. Taking a couple more breaths here at the start of class. Maybe the breath comes deeper into the body now. Maybe it's a little slower. Maybe you begin to take Ujjayi breath. On your next inhale, bringing the hands forward if they're not already there, pressing into the hands to rise up into all fours. So hands under shoulders, knees underneath hips, gaze down, spine long. And then taking some rocks back and forward. And then from here, seeing where you want the movement to go. So maybe some circles, maybe some sort of side to side hip movements. You can change direction, really feeling into this. So thinking again about that curiosity, that exploration, experiencing this pose exactly as your body wants to experience it today, allowing it to kind of move into those tight areas. You can hang out anywhere that feels good. Taking a few more breaths here, moving mindfully, moving with your breath. Allowing the spine and the hips to get the opportunity to move organically and freely. And then finding our way back to center. On your next inhale, pressing through the hands, hips rise, chest draws through the arms, coming into your cow. Exhaling the other way, releasing into cat, opening up the back of the body, the spine as the chin tucks. Inhaling, moving forward again, working with your breath. And if you want to on this next one, as you take your cat, you can press through the hands, the tops of the feet, hover the knees off the floor. And then back down. One more time, inhaling as feels good for you. And exhaling if you'd like to, pressing through the hands, hovering the knees. And maybe you stay here for an extra breath, noticing how the body responds to being in this pose. And then lowering the knees down, back to center, and taking a couple more breaths to explore. Moving the body as it wants to, as feels good. Finding your way back to center when you're ready, tucking the toes under, pressing through the hands up into your first downward facing dog. And when you get there, taking the feet wider than hips distance. And then taking a moment to maybe pedal the feet, so really easing the body into this pose. And having a little second to think about all of the places in the body that work together in this pose, how they're impacted, how it feels for you. So maybe noticing where there's tightness. What does it feel like working maybe from the ground up, thinking about the grounding of the hands, pressing into the knuckles of the fingers? What do the feet feel like? How do the arms and legs support the body? Is the head soft? Is the jaw soft? Reaching the hips high. Bringing the feet back to center. And then inhaling, lifting the right leg from the ground, lifting from the inner thigh. And then bending the knee here and exploring in your one-legged dog. Maybe you take circles with the knee, with the hip. Now returning the right leg back down, moving on to the other side when you're ready. Inhale, lifting the left leg up. And then exploring a little bit here, opening up through the hip. Maybe you want to take a circle. And lowering the left foot down. On your next inhale, lifting the right foot again up towards the sky, lifting from the inner thigh into one-legged dog. Coming up onto the left toes, and then lunging the right foot forward in between the hands. And lowering the back knee down. So coming off, starting in a nice low lunge. You can untap the back toes if you like. And then up to you here if you want to keep hands to the ground, really sinking the hips. You can bring hands up to the thigh or lifting the arms up above. And then hands back down to the ground, coming up onto the back toe and stepping straight back into your downward facing dog. On your next inhale, left leg reaches up into your one-legged dog. And then up onto the right toes, creating space to lunge forward with the left foot and bringing the back knee down. And then option here, either hands down to the ground. So really opening up the front of the body, the hip flexor. The arms can reach up. And exhale, bringing the hands down, coming up onto the back toe, and this time stepping the right foot forward all the way to the top of the mat. So using the hands on the front foot, pressing off the back foot, and up to stand. And then taking the feet a little wider than hips width, and relaxing the upper body, maybe taking a ragdoll, one hand in front of the other. And then pedaling the feet here, so like we do in downward dog, having a little pedal of the feet, and maybe as you do that, you notice the body automatically wants to sway side to side. And maybe continuing that sway, whatever feels good, you can stay with the pedaling. And then hands lowering down to the ground and stepping back into plank. And we'll take a nice long hold here in plank. So really grounding down through the hands. And as you do that, noticing how the shoulders engage, how the arms engage. Pushing away with the heels. And just being curious in your body as to how it responds to this pose. On your exhale, up and back into your downward facing dog. Inhale, rolling back, forward into your plank. So adjusting your feet as you need here. And really reaching through the crown of the head, reaching through the heels, engaging through legs, through core, rounding through the shoulders, grounding down through the hands. Exhaling, back into downward facing dog. On your next inhale, right leg rises up into one leg dog, up onto the left toes, lunging forward with the right foot. And then from here, pressing off the back toes, bringing the hands onto sort of fingertips and rising up straight away into your half splits. So left leg lifts from the ground, lifting from the inner thigh, and upper body is soft and heavy. So almost like a normal forward fold at the top of your mat, but with one leg lifted. Bending the right knee, gaze comes down to the ground, and tucking the left knee in. So almost like you're coming into your one-legged chair. And maybe you decide to lift the hands from the ground, bringing them into prayer in front of your heart. And then if you can, keeping the foot lifted, rising up into half mountain, all the way up to stand. And then stepping back smoothly and efficiently, arms reach back, high lunge. Lifting the arms up to the sky, opening the arms wide, cactus, lion's breath. And reaching up on your inhale. Exhaling, hands by the feet, stepping back into your downward facing dog. Taking a couple of breaths here to recoup. And checking in, is the jaw still soft? What does the body feel like? On your next inhale, left leg rises up into your one-legged dog. Up onto the right toes to step forward. And then as before, pressing through the front feet and the fingertips, and then pressing through the right toes to lift straight up if you can into your half split. So the foot doesn't need to be very high off the ground, but keeping the head, the upper body relaxed. So they're looking to the back of the mat. Bending through the front knee, right knee comes in, and taking your one-legged chair. Rising up if you can. Whoops, maybe the foot comes down a little cheat into your half mountain. And then stepping back, using the hands to support you into your high lunge. Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, cactus, lion's breath. Inhale to reach up. So don't worry if you had a little wobble there. Just a little fun sequence just to keep you curious. So feel free to play around with that. Exhale, hands by the feet, stepping back into your downward facing dog. On your inhale, shifting forwards into your plank pose. So you might be recognizing a bit of a theme here, engaging through the core, through the arms, through the legs. Plank is such a good workout for the body as a whole. Exhaling, back into downward facing dog. Inhaling, rolling forward into your plank once more. Seeing if you can keep that stability, seeing if you can keep the engagement. And exhaling, back into downward facing dog. On your next inhale, right leg rises up to the sky. Up onto the left toes, lunging forward with the right foot. Coming into your half splits when you're ready, pushing off with the ball of the left foot to help you come up. Head heavy, neck soft. So option to come into that one-leg chair if you like, or to come into a Shiva squat. So if you want to come into Shiva squat, bringing the left knee behind the right shin. So almost like stacking here. And then bringing the hands up to prayer. And then as we did before, shooting back into high lunge, keeping that stability if you can, arms rise up. Cactus, lion's breath if you wish. Inhale, reaching tall. Exhale, hands by the feet, stepping back into your downward dog. Straight to the other side. Inhale, left leg reaches up and back. Up onto the right toes, lunging forwards. Using your back foot to help push off, grounding down in the front of the body, rising up into your half splits. Option to take your Shiva squat here. Right knee behind left shin, finding your balance. Whoops. And lifting up your hands. Shooting back. High lunge if you can, staying balanced, reaching tall. Nearly there. Exhale, lion's breath. Inhale, reaching up. And exhale, downward facing dog. Once more, rolling forward into your plank. Holding for a couple of breaths if you can. And then lowering the knees down into all fours. And feel free to take that exploration here. Have a little relax. Finding your way back to center. We'll move into pigeon pose just to kind of release the hips. They've been working very hard in all those balances. So drawing the right knee up behind the right hand or slightly to the side. And letting the right foot come a little bit to center. Walking your left leg back. Checking that your left leg's still kind of parallel with the mat. So sometimes it scoots off to the side or rolls out to the side. And if you notice that your hips are kind of wanting to roll maybe over to the right, then you might want to grab a cushion or a block and pop something underneath. So that's a good little trick to help the hips stay square in pigeon. And then from here, bringing the hands one handprint forward, you can either stay here if your hips are quite tight, you can come down onto elbows, or you can come down all the way. And feel free to shuffle that foot position around so it feels comfortable. We're going to hang out here for a few breaths. So really easing into this position. You can use cushions to support you underneath the head, underneath the chest. I really recommend having that one under the right hip. It really helps to keep the hips steady and level. And seeing if you can send your breath down into that right hip. It's a funny pose, this one. It can start off feeling really easy and comfortable at the beginning, and then suddenly become quite intense as time goes on. So we'll spend just a few more breaths here. And being wherever you need to be, whether that's all the way down, whether that's part way up, whether it's on the elbows. And seeing if as you breathe out, if you can really allow that area to let go, if you can allow it to stop holding tension. What happens if you begin to visualize space in that hip area? Taking a couple more breaths here. Really focusing on getting that alignment in the hips to be level, really checking you're not rolling over onto one hip. Sometimes if you've been practicing for a long time, it can be tempting to want to come all the way down to the ground. Checking that you're still in that really good alignment, you're still benefiting from the pose. And sending your breath deep into those hip muscles. One more breath here. As you inhale, using your hands to slowly walk back up, removing any props that you have underneath the hip, and then coming up onto the toe of that back foot so that you can walk the back foot in before bringing the right leg back. And then from here, maybe taking a couple of circles with the hips before coming on to the other side. When you're ready, finding your way back to all fours. Left knee comes behind left hand. You can bring it also slightly to the side. And then allowing that foot to just come a little bit into the center. Walking your right leg back. And then the hands are handprint forward. So again, you can use that cushion underneath the left hip to kind of encourage the hips to stay as in as good alignment as possible, to stop them wanting to go over to one side. And then finding your place here. Maybe it feels different on this side. Maybe you can come all the way down. Maybe you need to be a bit higher up. So seeing if you can find the place that's good for your body, maybe without without any judgment, without any feeling of needing to be in a particular place. And seeing if you can really surrender to this pose. So what happens in this pose if you say yes, if you allow those muscles to release a little bit, if you allow there to be a little bit more space? This is such a great pose for releasing tight hips, lower back. Particularly if you do a lot of work at a desk, or if you're really into sports that can be quite hard on the hips, so things like running in particular. This is a really nice one for releasing from doing things like running. Taking a couple more breaths here, really sending each breath, particularly the exhales, down to that left hip, imagining space being created, imagining the muscle fibers moving away from one another, creating a bit of room in there. On your next inhale, using your hands to really gently walk back in. You can move any cushions, any blocks. And then coming up onto the right toes to walk the right leg back in, moving the left leg back when you're ready. And then taking either a couple of circles, or it might be quite nice at this stage just to take one last downward facing dog. Open up the back of the legs, so pressing through the hands. And allowing the back of the legs to open, the chest and the head to sink down. Maybe you take a deep inhale, filling up your body. Deep exhale through the mouth, sigh out. And then allowing the knees to come down. Coming about halfway up your mat. And option here to take either saddle or hero's pose. So whatever feels best. If you've got kind of dodgy knees, I'd say stick with saddle pose for sure. So with saddle pose, you're going to start kneeling. And then what I think feels really good actually is to bring the hands behind the body, press into the hands and begin to lift the hips. So you can just do a little lift and that will start to open up the front of the legs. So again, an area that we've been working quite hard today. Or if your back's feeling quite open, then of course you can lift the hips a bit higher. And you can either have the head up to the ceiling or the head can relax. And then you can stay there for as long as feels good. You can take some little pulses up and down. If your knees are feeling okay in hero's poses in your practice, then you can come to sit in between the feet. So this is where it can be a bit tweaky on the knees. So if you start sitting in this position and it doesn't feel good, just come straight out of it. And then either staying here if that feels like enough, or you can bring the hands behind the body. So again, starting to get into the front of the legs. You can come down onto elbows if you've got the space in the lower back. And if you want to, you can come down all the way. So if you're coming down all the way, maybe taking hold of the feet and then lowering yourself down, keeping your neck as straight as possible. So this is quite a big back bend if you're coming all the way down to the ground. So being really mindful of looking after your back here as well as your knees. And if you are all the way down to the ground, of course, you can bring arms overhead or onto the belly, wherever feels good. So wherever you are, whether you're taking saddle or whether you're in a version of hero's pose, Really taking a moment to open up the front of the body. So we've done a little bit of work opening up the hip flexors today, but then we've also done quite a bit of balancing, quite a bit of work using the legs for balance. So allowing them a little bit of space to let go here and release, open up. Taking one more breath here wherever you are. And again, finding that curiosity in the body, maybe noticing things that maybe you don't normally notice in this pose. It's quite easy to just kind of flop down into this pose if you're familiar with it. So taking a last breath to really feel into your body, feel into what's going on. On your next inhale, coming out really carefully. So if you are all the way down, maybe bringing hands onto the heels so that you can bring the elbows down and then lifting up completely straight. So avoiding rocking as you're coming up, to look after the lower back, looking after the neck. And then hands to the side or in front as you bring the feet to center. Once you're back in your seated position, taking the legs nice and wide, we're going to come into a wide leg forward fold. So if you want to have cushions or props or blocks, you know I'm a big fan of all of these. This is a really active power yoga class, but it's still nice to take restorative versions at the end. So if that's something that's not familiar to you, maybe give it a go today and see how it feels. If you're noticing your lower back's rounding a little bit, then do grab either a block or a cushion and you can pop that underneath. So what this does is it helps to shift the hips forward a little bit. You can sit right on the edge of the block if you want. Sometimes that's not helpful. It will tip the hips forward. It will help you find that length in your lower back. So whenever we're doing poses like this, finding the length in the lower back is the first key point. So making sure you've got that initially. And then if you want to, you can stay seated like this. If that's feeling good, you can bring hands behind. Or you can begin to fold forward. So if you're folding forward, then leading from the breastbone, seeing if you can avoid tucking the chin and leading with the forehead. And coming forward any amount. So if you want to, you can come down just part way. You can come down onto elbows, forearms. You can take a big toe bind here, bring the forehead down. So again, seeing if you can feel into what your body needs today. Bodies arrive differently every single day, no matter how experienced we are at yoga, no matter how long we've been practicing. So really seeing if you can listen into what your body's asking for today. What does it need? Where does it want to be? Moving slowly as you come down. Being curious again. What's going on in your body? What does it feel like as you move deeper into this pose? Seeing if that expectation of needing to bring the head down to the floor, if it's there, is there any way that you can question that today? If you like a more active version of this pose, you can flex the feet, press away with the heels. So the choice is entirely yours. Taking a couple more breaths to really feel in, notice what's going on, notice how it feels, almost as if you were doing this pose for the very first time. On your next inhale, using your hands to walk back up to center, and moving any props, blocks out of the way for now. Hand under each knee, bringing the legs in. Maybe you take a little shake of the legs. And then we'll come and sit in a cross-legged position. Maybe take the cross of the legs that doesn't feel natural to you, so whichever one you were going to go for, take the other one. And just taking a really easy, simple twist here. So drawing up through the spine as you inhale, finding that length. hands on the knees. And then left hand comes to right knee, right hand behind the body. And then exhale, really seeing if you can twist through the waist, either coming to look over to the side or maybe deeper over the right shoulder. Using your exhales to help you come a little bit deeper, find a little bit more openness in your twist. Inhale, back to center, drawing up tall through the spine, broadening, opening through the shoulders. And then exhale, right hand to left knee, left hand behind the body, and opening up on this side. How does it feel to do these twists today? What's going on in your body? Taking one more breath here, exploring this pose. And inhaling back to center, drawing tall for one last breath, reaching the arms out to the side, up overhead. And then exhale, cactus the arms, lion's breath. And back to center. Okay, so choosing to finish today however feels good for you. I'm going to suggest Baddha Konasana if that's a pose that your body is feeling to take. Otherwise, feel free to choose something else. So if you'd like to take Baddha Konasana, then you can either take this in a seated position or lying down, up to you. If you are lying down, come to about halfway up your mat, and then you can lower yourself down. If you're seated, then staying right where you are. So either way, drawing the soles of the feet together, allowing the knees to open up to the side. And I'd really encourage you, if you've got cushions with you today, to pop those underneath the knees, underneath the thighs, filling up that space. So this can be a really nice way to take a more restorative, relaxing version of this pose. And this is a good time of class to be doing that. If you'd rather just be opening up in Shavasana as normal, on your back or legs up the wall, feel free to do that instead. So finding yourself into the position you'd like to take for Shavasana, and then allowing your eyes to close. On your next inhale, filling your body, filling your lungs with fresh oxygen. Exhaling to release from this practice. So maybe you want to take a couple more of those breaths. Allowing your body to be refilled with energy following class. Exhaling, sinking into the mat, grounding down. What does it feel like to be in the position that you've chosen? What does it feel like to be on the mat right now? How did this class feel in your body? Becoming aware of the contact that your body has with the ground. How do each of those points feel? Finding softness and heaviness through each of those points. Finding openness and softness in the jaw in the shoulders. Allowing your body the opportunity to release and let go. Stay in here for at least a few minutes longer today if you can. You can stay in quiet, you can pop on a piece of music that you'd like to enjoy. Giving yourself permission to be in this space. Thank you for joining me today. Namaste.